Pardon? Good afternoon and welcome to the Community Culture, Arts and Sports Committee, number 1 for 2022. I will begin with an acknowledgement of country from Councillor Kunzelman.
Thank you, Chair. Today this committee recognises the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. We support their right to democratic representation and social inclusion. Ipswich City Council acknowledges the ongoing challenges faced by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and this committee supports their inclusion and participation in community, cultural, arts and sports activities.
Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. So we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the confirmation of the minutes from the December round of committees. And the recommendation here is that the minutes of the committee held on the 1st of December be confirmed. Do I have a mover for those? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. And a seconder? Thank you, Mayor. I'll open that for any discussion or corrections. And there being none, I'll take that straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. So moving on to item number 2, we've got the quarterly event sponsorship and ticket allocation report. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officer with regards to this report? So we've got 2 recommendations, A and B here. And A is that council note the following event sponsorship was approved during the 1 October to 31st December 2021 period. And that was a category 2 event sponsorship of $24,721 excluding GST, and marketing in-kind support of up to $5,000. As well as venue hire of $350 for the Crown permit at the North Ipswich Reserve for the Brisbane Roar Football Club for the 2021 A-League friendly football match between the Brisbane Roar and Adelaide United football clubs. And B, that council note there were no event sponsorship ticket allocations made. I'll move both of those. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. I'll open that up for any discussion. Just noting that it was great to have an A-League game. I was at the match and it was a fun afternoon. So hopefully we see more of that activation at the North Ipswich Reserve, and we look forward to continuing to build those relationships with Brisbane Roar. I'll take that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous and carried. Moving on to the final report on the agenda this morning, and that's the recreational cycling and walking action plan. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officers with regards to the report? Mayor? Yep. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Moser-Rinecker. I'm the Senior Planning Officer for Open Space.
To the Chair, thank you very much for this report. May I just ask, in the report itself on page 18, under Community and Other Consultation, it talks about we received 627 contributions from community members, is that right? Was that organic? Did we do Facebook advertising for that, or how did that happen?
So we had used the Shape Your Ipswich tool to do a survey, and there were a survey, there was quick questions, and there was also interactive tool where residents could drop a pin on the map of Ipswich City Council and leave a comment. We also advertised on Facebook or promoted it on Facebook. We got obviously some Facebook comments, and we had also media releases. So, and this was the 627 was a combination of the survey respondents, the quick question respondents, and drop the pin.
Okay. And it reached about 10,000 community members.
Yes, through Facebook. We get a report how many community members it would reach. Yes.
Thank you. So I'm just looking through my questions. That were all my questions. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, just one further question. With regards to this action plan, and thank you, this is quite a significant report and goes a long way to inform the future capital spend of this council. With the information contained in this report, will we look to update the prioritisations in some of those categories in the capital program? Will this inform an update of the prioritisations of some of those projects?
So there are already, some of the projects are already in the 3-year CapEx program included. Then there are a number of operational projects which relating to this action plan, which are also up for operational funding. So there and there will be updates then in the long term in the 3-year CapEx program, probably not in this one, but out of these OpEx projects, there will fall out CapEx projects which will be included in future CapEx programs.
Yeah, great, thank you. No further questions from the committee, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So the recommendation here is that Council adopt the recreational cycling and walking action plan as detailed in attachment 1. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mayor. I'd now like to open that up for any discussion.
I think there's a lot here to discuss. It was a really good report. I think having the evidence there and just looking at, I'm looking at page 34 of the attachment 1 and looking at, that cumulative growth rate where those areas are, as well as the constraints map, if I look at some of the highlights. And very interested to know some of the things listed in the action plan on page 57, will they be in our budget process? So we can have a discussion on how we can move this forward as well. So I was just really pleased, and also pleased that the organisation used multiple methods to make sure that it reached 10,000 people using local media as well as social media as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's fantastic engagement. It is a very comprehensive report and ambitious in so many ways. I think if we look to its implementation on page 44, there are some pretty strong KPIs that we're looking to meet over the next 10 years. We shouldn't shy away from these ambitious targets, but it's always good to put them front and centre when we're considering what we're doing in our budget build each year. I guess another highlight for me was for the first time seeing in a document like this in Council some of the projects or the niggling little advocacy pieces that don't really sit anywhere, but now they sit in this central document. And we're talking about things like the Ipswich to Boona Trail, which I think it's good to call it out in a document to look at it. Ipswich City Council really doesn't have all that much more involvement to do in that, apart from the advocacy that we need to do to push through to highlight its benefits so that, across the, outside of the bounds of the LGA, people see the benefits. So I think that was really good to call it out. Another really important key deliverable or something for us to note as a high priority here is the continuation to develop that connection from Riverlink to the Brassall Bikeway as well. They're listed here, and with the priority beside them, we've got it pretty bang on, but there's a lot in this list here that is a high priority. So I guess it's about how do we funnel this into a program that's easy for us to achieve, and what really are our top 10 to 20 things that we wish to achieve in the next budget, and then consider from there on out what we do in the future. So I thank the officers for this report. It's like I said, it's just nice to have all of these deliverables in one place to hold us to account as well. Any further discussion?
Just through you, Chair. Again, would like to speak to it as being a really positive step forward for us as a council, especially us being our advocates for the Active Ipswich Alliance as well. And one of the points in the walking cycles was picking up like Woogaroo Creek connections, and that's something that I'm really passionate about for my division too. So it's really promising.
Yeah, it's a document that if council adopts it at the ordinary meeting, upon whatever recommendation we make here today, I think it's important that we circulate the document with all of the key stakeholders outside of council as well, the obesity advocacy group, as well as the Westmoreton Diabetes Alliance, Westmoreton Health. They'd be very keen to see that, there is a commitment from this council that we wish, to improve the city, its walkability, and therefore, the health of our residents. So yeah, there's a lot in this, and we just have to take up the challenge now. I feel the weight of the document. I mean, it is very well researched, but there's just a lot to do in this. So I'm excited to see, what we can report on coming back in 12 months' time to say, we can hang our hat on, 3 major projects that we got underway. I'm already thinking about the letter that we might sign to Riverlink to re-engage, from a political level, and what we're doing about that connection between Riverlink and the Brassel Bikeway as well. So there's work for everyone to do. Councillor Kunzelman?
You just said what I was going to say, but I do want to emphasise that connection between this report and our health objectives for this community.
Thank you. With no further discussion, I'll take that recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous and carried. Which leads us to the close of our committee today at 12:45. So the next committee will be at 5 minutes to 1 p.m.